Next on Worcester News tonight, the Cannabis Control Commission is looking at the possibility of marijuana cafes, but some law enforcement agencies are concerned about the dangers they could create. Plus, the state's Department of Conservation and Recreation says Asian longhorn beetles infestations are on the decline. Good evening and thanks for joining us. I'm Olivia Lemon. It's finally starting to feel like spring out there. Warmer temperatures across central Massachusetts today with sunny skies, and it looks like we could see more of the same tomorrow. Let's get a first look at our local forecast with meteorologist Tim Kelly.
Yeah, nice day today. The sky is a little brown. There are some cumulus clouds. No big storms around. Severe weather outbreak now on the northern edge of the heat, a lot farther south than the last 2 days. Our rain from last night offshore, about 1/3 of an inch of rain. But not only do we have some clouds, there are fires burning near Winnipeg, and the smoke from those fires has got a brown yellow hue with the sky, along with the cumulus clouds. So one front went out, another one's off to our west, so we're in between fronts. What happens tonight is low clouds come all the way in off the ocean. Late tonight, we'll have a fog bank developing, 50 to 55 to start the day. That fog is going to recede. Now, there will be building cumulus with a shower to our west. But by lunchtime, we're in the 70s. Nice day. If you're headed for the beach, say going to Narragansett Bay or Cape Cod, the fog may stick near the shore. But we are going to 75 to 80. Any of these showers and thunderstorms are few and far between, mostly staying west and north. Similar story for Sunday. Pretty nice looking weekend. More details in a few minutes.
All right, thank you, Tim. With marijuana legal in Massachusetts, the state's Cannabis Control Commission is looking into the possibility of social consumption sites. The idea is still in the early phases, but some law enforcement say they are concerned it may be too soon, and there are other issues around marijuana they need to deal with first. Our Roslyn Flaherty joins us live now to explain. Roslyn.
Olivia, law enforcement says there needs to be better regulations with impaired driving before these cafes open, and the Cannabis Control Commission says they need more time to focus on what's happening now. Marijuana cafes could someday be the new normal in Massachusetts. The Cannabis Control Commission says the social consumption proposal is still under consideration.
The commission voted to move the proposal forward to consider in our draft regulations.
Commissioner Jennifer Flanagan says it includes 12 sites to use in a pilot program. The facilities would allow people to purchase and consume marijuana inside.
Those sites would be determined by the people who sat on the working group, and from there we'd be able to take a look at the data and see how it went, and then take a look at any concerns that we might have going forward.
Webster Police Chief Michael Shaw says while he isn't opposed to these cafes, he says there needs to be better regulations around impaired driving because towns are still struggling with it, and thinks communities need to focus on legalization of marijuana first.
We need to come up with some good tests for that, for the officers on the street to use that. Let's get that process going. I mean, a lot of towns are still struggling with that. And then let's get into this, to the social aspect of consumption in public premises.
He says they are fortunate enough to have a drug recognition expert on staff in Webster, but not every police department has one.
Depending on other resources to do that.
Flanagan says she thinks the Cannabis Control Commission should wait to open the cafes, saying the commission needs to focus on what they are doing now in terms of licenses and dispensaries.
Certainly under the mandate we need to consider social consumption cafes. However, I think that we need more time to vet that process.
Now, the commission says they're going to continue to draft the regulations and open them up for public comment. They say they don't see this happening anytime soon. Live in Worcester, Roslyn Flaherty, Worcester News Tonight.
An East Brookfield man is indicted by a federal grand jury this week on charges for illegally flying a helicopter in and out of his yard. 59-year-old Antonio Sanatasas was arrested earlier this month when neighbors complained about him flying the helicopter from his home. Court documents show his pilot's license was revoked in 2000 after he participated in the theft of a helicopter. Sanatasas was indicted on several charges, including serving as an airman without an airman certificate and making false statements to federal agents. New developments in a decades-old murder case. Lawyers for the Massachusetts man who spent more than 35 years behind bars for the murder now say DNA evidence proves his innocence. And as Alicia Palumbo reports, they're now asking for a new trial.
We believe that it is never too late to do justice.
DNA evidence from a 4-decade-old Milford murder case could now exonerate the only man still living in prison convicted of the crime. The New England Innocence Project and Ropes and Gray law firm filed motions on behalf of Gary C. Fazzari in Worcester Superior Court Friday. They say the DNA now proves that Gary and his brother Michael C. Fazzari, who has since died, could not have been responsible for their aunt's 1979 murder in her Milford apartment.
There was semen and saliva that was found on the victim's nightgown. That semen and saliva was tested for DNA.
They say that testing came back with a match to Michael Giroux, the original suspect in this murder.
He knew the victim because his sister-in-law and brother-in-law lived upstairs from the victim. He had broken into the victim's apartment a year before this.
Giroux died in 2014. Advocates for Gary C. Fazzari say he is now hopeful he will be exonerated and released after more than 35 years in prison.
We have an opportunity here to right a really great wrong and to free a man who never should have gone to prison in the first place.
The Worcester County District Attorney's Office released a statement saying, "We are in the process of reviewing the motion, evidence, and additional testing that has been and can be performed with modern science. We want to make sure we get this right. We're committed to justice, and we will continue to work with defense counsel to ensure justice is done." The New England Innocence Project hopes to have a hearing on this matter sometime in June. At Worcester Superior Court, Alicia Palumbo, Worcester News Tonight.
A new report looks at the possibility of allowing cell phones back into the state's courthouses. The Massachusetts Access to Justice Commission released the report. It looks at ways to allow cell phones while still addressing security concerns. The group worked with the state's trial court. It cites how full bans create, quote, unacceptable hardships on users of the justice system. Attorney Michael Ehrlich says he believes cell phones should be allowed.
You know, as long as you have a policy that you cannot pull out your phone in a courtroom, certainly if it's during a hearing or a trial, it's pretty easy to see. The courtrooms aren't normally really filled up during those events. So, you know, I think you have a policy in place that would take care of any security issues from that perspective.
Currently, several courthouses ban cell phones because of security issues. Exceptions are made for employers, lawyers, police officers, jurors, and the media. A 3-car crash in Worcester shuts down a portion of Ararat Street Friday afternoon. One vehicle was on fire and another flipped over. The crash happened around noon. Route 190 at Exit 2 was closed for a period of time as crews worked to clean up the scene. The cause is under investigation. Auburn Police are looking for a vehicle they say may have been involved in a shooting. The department shared these pictures on their Twitter page of a silver or gray vehicle. They say a shooting happened Wednesday night at the intersection of North Oxford and Water Street. Police say they believe the vehicle was involved in a shooting and may have one or more windows shot out. The state's Department of Conservation and Recreation is out surveying for the Asian longhorn beetle. The first infested tree was detected in Worcester County more than 10 years ago. Since then, tens of thousands of trees have had to be cut down. DCR says thankfully things have changed. Our Chandler Walsh explains.
The Massachusetts Department of Conservation and Recreation surveys hundreds of thousands of trees for the Asian longhorned beetle each year. They're looking for egg sites like these divots and dime-sized circles like this where the adult beetles will exit. USDA and DCR technicians weed through Boylston Woods, taking a close look at trees and measuring them.
87, Tim.
They're surveying for the Asian longhorned beetle.
We'll take our own separate angle of the tree, so maybe a front view, a side view, and the returning view or the rear view, and we'll sort of work our way up the trunk.
So far this year, they've found 22 infested trees in Worcester County.
That's a decline from the year before. Each year successively since the beginning of the program in 2008, we found fewer and fewer infested trees.
The teams mark healthy trees and flag suspicious ones for another look.
That information gets sent to our climbers who are going to have the tools and the ability to get up further in the tree, take a closer look at that damage.
Tim Barwise is a DCR forester. He says it's important to inspect all host trees like the maple and remove any damaged ones. The beetles burrow into the wood and cut off nutrients and water, causing structural damage.
In order to maintain the ecological integrity and our overall forest resilience to other stressors like climate change and other invasive forces. We need to remove this insect because it does pose a direct threat to the health of individual trees and forests generally.
The 22 infested trees will be removed in the coming weeks. DCR says they've also been getting many reports of a look-alike beetle, which doesn't pose a threat to forest health.
We encourage the public to stay vigilant and report anything that they question.
Barwise says the Asian longhorned beetle came to the U.S. through global trade. He says eradication efforts are necessary because they have no natural predator here.
We will continue surveying the affected area for the years to come until we're absolutely certain that the last infested tree has been found and the last Asian longhorned beetle has been destroyed in Worcester County.
DCR says they typically start to see adult beetles around the beginning of July. They recommend people survey their own trees through the fall. In Boylston, Chandler Walsh, Worcester News Tonight.
Wormtown Brewery is offering cold ones for a cause to support veterans. The brewery is partnering with the Black Ale Project. Each month will feature a different beer and charity. Starting Saturday, $1 of every pint of their Hopeful Brew will benefit Project New Hope.
A lot of this was really near and dear to our heart because we just lost a coworker actually that was a former Marine, active duty Marine. And June is PTSD Awareness Month, and they deal a lot with suicide prevention and all that stuff to help really raise more awareness.
And Wormtown will pick charities who help veterans, first responders, and their families by providing services or supplies. Worcester firefighters are helping raise awareness about muscular dystrophy. This month, members of the local 1009 raised more than $23,000 for the Muscular Dystrophy Association. It was part of their annual Fill the Boot fundraiser. All of the proceeds will go to the MDA of Massachusetts. Last year, firefighters across the country raised more than $20,000.